Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Learn Linux TV, and also welcome back to the Linux Crash Course series here on Learn Linux TV. In this series, if you're new, I go over an important Linux-related concept in each and every video, and unless I tell you otherwise, each video is completely standalone. That way, you could just watch whatever videos you need to watch in order to learn what you need to learn, and that'll help you get on board with Linux even faster. And this series is now over 60 episodes long, so thank you so much to everyone for supporting Learn Linux TV and this series. I really appreciate it. In today's episode, what we're going to do is take a look at how to alter the priority of running processes on our Linux system. I'm going to show you how to increase priority, and I'm also going to show you how to decrease priority. And this is very useful if you have a process that you are running that's, really important, and you want to let the CPU know that scheduling that particular process is more important than others, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you in today's video. Specifically, we're going to learn the nice and renice commands. Now, before we get into that though, I need to take a moment and mention the sponsor for today's video. If you're looking for a cloud provider that's affordable, flexible, and reliable, then look no further than Akamai Connected Cloud. With Akamai's cloud platform, you can spin up Linux servers quickly, and the platform contains all the features you'll need to deploy full-featured solutions. And using the marketplace, you could easily deploy applications such as Nextcloud, Rocket Chat, Mastodon, WordPress, Pi-hole, Plex, Jenkins, and many more. In fact, there's over 100 applications available in the marketplace. If you want to set up a custom Linux instance, you could do that too. All the popular Linux distributions are available on the platform, including, but not limited to, Debian, CentOS, Fedora, Ubuntu, and many others. In fact, even Arch Linux is available. So check out Akamai Connected Cloud with the URL that you see on the screen right now, which will do two things. First, it'll help support this channel, which I'll really appreciate, and it'll also get you $100 in starter credit to check out the platform. And thank you yet again to Akamai for sponsoring this video. Alright, so with that out of the way, it's time to dive into the nice and renice commands in Linux, and I'm going to show you exactly how they work. Let's get started. So let's get started and learn how to control process priority with the nice and renice commands. And the first thing that I'm going to show you is how to determine the current process priority for processes that you might be running. And to do that, we're going to revisit a command from our past, the ps command. And with it, what we'll do is use the -L option here. And like you see here, I see some information regarding processes that are running under my user account. And to add something to this list to make it a bit more fun, what I'll do is open up Vim. It doesn't really matter what process you open up and which process you control, as long as you have permission to do so. But anyway, what I'll do is open up Vim. And now it's open, and then I'll hold Control and press Z to send it to the background. Now when I type ps-l, you can see that I also have Vim listed there in the output. But I mentioned that the goal for today's video is to teach you how to control the priority of a process. So how do we understand from this output what the priority of a process happens to be? Well, there's two columns that you'll pay attention to here in addition to the command name at the end. We have the priority column and the niceness column. On each of these processes, we have 80 for the priority and 0 for the niceness value. But what do those numbers actually mean? Now, the first thing to know about this is that by default, the priority is going to be 80 if you do absolutely nothing. Also, the default niceness value is 0 as well for most Linux distributions. Now, if I was to enter the nice command just like this and press enter, it's going to give me the default niceness value, which again, most of the time is going to be 0. A value of 0 effectively means that we're not increasing the priority of a process, and we're also not lowering it either. It's just at 0. It's not +1 or -1, it's just 0. There's no specific priority here. A process will just be given 0 by default if we don't decide to change that value. Now, to help you understand these numbers a bit more, a niceness value of 0, like I mentioned, doesn't have priority good or bad, but if the number goes up, it's a positive number, so it goes from 1 to 2 and so on all the way up to 20, which is the highest it can go, the higher it is, the nicer the process is. And what that means is that the higher the number, the lower the priority, and the more nice it is to other processes. Think of it this way. If you have a process with a niceness value of 20, it's pretty much the lowest priority that it could possibly be, which is equivalent to somebody that's always letting someone else go in front of them in line or something like that. They're just being nice to everyone else. And in that case, a value of 20 for niceness is the lowest priority that you can have. A negative 20 is going to be the highest priority or the highest niceness value that you could possibly have. Now, a niceness value of negative 20 is going to be the highest priority that a process can possibly have. Think of it this way. As the niceness value goes down, the more priority a process has, and the higher the number, the less priority a process has. Now, when it comes to the priority value, which we see here as 80, the higher that number as well, the lower the priority. So that could be 100 all the way down to 0, for example. So just like the niceness value, the higher that number, the lower the priority. Now let's go ahead and see this in action, and I'll show you exactly how this works. And if it doesn't make sense now, it's going to make sense very shortly. I'll bring up the ps-l output again. And what we want to pay attention to right here is the process identifier, or PID, which is going to be different with each individual process. Now notice that Vim, in this case, has a PID of 6848, so that's the one that we're going to work with in this example. Now on your end, I don't recommend that you change the priority of a process on a production Linux server unless you have permission to do that, but instead, it's easier to just launch a text editor, for example, because it's not going to get in the way of anything and is the least likely to cause a problem. Obviously, if you lower the priority of something that's critical, that could have unintended consequences, but for the most part, it should be pretty benign to change the priority of Vim itself. Anyway, let's take a look at changing the priority of a process, and again, I'm going to use Vim as an example. And in order to change the priority, I'm going to need sudo. So I'll type that first. Now, one thing I'll mention real quick about sudo in regard to changing priority with the commands that I'm about to show you, you won't need sudo if you are lowering the priority of a process, but you will need it if you're increasing the priority of a process. Just keep that in mind going forward. But anyway, the command that I'm going to start you off with is the renice command. And what this command will do is enable us to change the priority of a process that's already running. And then, just like with most commands in Linux, we're going to add an option, which we could start doing by typing a hyphen, just like you see here. And what I'll do is change the priority to 10. Next, I'll add -p. That allows us to target a specific process identifier. And the one that we want to target this time around is PID 6848. So I'll type that in. And there's the completed command. So what I'll do is run this command. And then after I do, I'll run ps-l again, and we can compare that output from the new output. So I'll press enter. I'll type in my password right here. And right here, it says that the old priority is 0. The new priority is -10. So ps-l. And take a look at that. We have two differences here when it comes to the output regarding Vim. We have 70 for the priority, and now we have -10 for the niceness value. Like I mentioned before, a negative number is going to be a higher priority. So by setting the priority to -10, I'm actually increasing the priority of that process. And again, that's why I needed sudo. We also see that the priority value itself is 70, so it's 10 less than what it was before. Again, a lower number is a higher priority, and a higher number is a lower priority. Now what I'll do is change the priority and make it less of a priority. And this time around, what I'll do is not use sudo. So I'll just type renice, just like last time. And then I'll set a priority of 5. That's a higher number, so I'm going to lower the priority. And again, that's why I don't need sudo. That's the last time I'll mention that. And then -p, just like last time. And I want to execute this against 6848, which is Vim. So I'll press enter, and let's see what happens. Now, as we can see here, the old priority was -10. We already knew that. And the new priority is 5. So I was able to change the priority. And again, ps-l, we see the new niceness value, and we also see the new priority value. Oh, sorry. I was just consulting my own book, actually. That's something that I do from time to time because unlike what many of you might think, I don't memorize everything that I teach you guys. Sometimes I actually look at my own book if I want to remember how to do something that I don't do every day. But since I'm on the subject of this book, check it out. Mastering Ubuntu Server, 4th edition, written by yours truly. It's available right now, and I think you're going to love it. So if you're looking for an Ubuntu book to teach you everything that you need to know when it comes to managing real Ubuntu servers, check it out. So definitely check out the book. I would really appreciate it. Anyway, let's get back to the video. So another thing that I want to show you guys is a different way to write the priority number. And this is fairly common. It's something that you will run into. Anyway, I'll type renice, and then I'll type -n. -n means I want to provide a new priority number or a new niceness value. And it's a bit redundant depending on what you're doing. But anyway, what I want to do is lower the priority. We set it to 5, so what I'll do is change it to 6, lowering the priority by 1 point. And then I'll type -p, and I'll use the same process ID yet again. I'll press enter, and just like it says, the priority was 5, and now it's 6. And the higher the priority, again, the lower the number, the more attention that process is going to get from the CPU. So now the attention given to Vim will be a little less, but generally speaking, you're not going to notice any difference when it comes to a process like Vim. It's already a process that's going to run fast anyway, unless you have a ginormous file open inside of it. So you're not going to see any actual difference here, but imagine Vim is an important process. For example, maybe your web server process. You probably want your web server process to respond to web requests quickly. I mean, that's kind of the point, right? So you might have a use case that's more effective than just Vim. I don't feel like anyone is going to be very impressed with the difference of a text editor, but again, just imagine that it's a very important process that's critical to your business, and that's the one that you're going to increase the priority of. Now what I'm going to do is show you how to set a priority when you are launching a process for the very first time. For that, we have a dedicated command. Like I mentioned, the renice command is used for changing the priority of an existing process, but if the process isn't running yet, then the nice command, basically the same but without the re at the beginning, is going to allow you to set a priority of a new task. And the syntax here is very similar to the previous command. I'll type nice in this case, and I could type it as -n, kind of similar to how I just did it with the renice command, and I can set the new priority. So let's say I want to create a process with a priority or niceness value of 10, which is going to be a lower priority than the default. The default is 0, so we're 10 points less than the normal niceness value here. So what I should be able to do is launch Vim. Let's see what happens. So Vim launched, and what I'll do is just hold Control and press Z to minimize this application. If you're curious, I have an entire video that goes over the process of backgrounding a process. So you can check out that video if you want to learn more about that. But anyway, Control Z. Now it's in the background. And I'll run ps-l again, and we'll see the difference. Now recall, 6848 was the process we already had, and now we have process 7097, another instance of Vim, and as you can see, it has a different priority and a different niceness value. 90 and 10 respectively. Okay, so another thing that I want to show you guys is that even though the syntax for renice and nice are very, very close, there are some differences. For example, this is a valid command right here. I just used a random process ID, for example. I want to lower the priority to 12, and the process identifier is 8989. Of course, this won't work because I don't even know if I have that process identifier being used right now. But the point is, with the renice command, I was able to omit the -n option and set the priority even without that. Now here's the thing. If I was to, for example, use nice and then provide the value like I did with the renice command, and I want to launch a new instance of Vim, this isn't going to work, unfortunately. It tells me no such file or directory. So what that means is when it comes to renice, you could give it the niceness value straight away without -n, but with nice, you will need the -n to set the priority of a new process. So in order for this to work, I will have to add that, so I'll do that now. And then we have them yet again. And we can see it down there. We have PID 7116. Priority is 92. Niceness is 12. But all in all, that's pretty much all there is to it. Now, of course, there's much more detail that I could go into, but I've gone over everything that you need to know when it comes to nice or renice. So we've just gone over the basics of setting priority on Linux, and I hope it was helpful. And there's our video. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of the Linux Crash Course series. I really appreciate it. If you've enjoyed this episode, then please do me a favor and click the like button to let YouTube know that you enjoy my content. I would really appreciate that. In the meantime, I'm going to get started on some additional content for you guys. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to be the first to see the new content as soon as it comes out. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.